Hi, I'm Roxanne Richardson, and this is Technique Tuesday. In this week's Technique Tuesday, I'll be demonstrating a twisted Italian or tubular cast-on that works really well with twisted ribbing. This cast-on provides more twisted stitch continuity going from the edge into the actual twisted rib pattern. So let's get started. My preference for doing a tubular cast-on involves using a standard cast-on to produce the temporary edge. In my case, I'm going to use a long tail cast-on. I'm going to start with waste yarn and the working yarn. I'm going to create a slip knot with the two together. This is not going to count as a stitch. This is just to anchor the yarn on the needles. So I have both of them together, I create a slip knot, and I tighten it up. I am going to use the working yarn for my index finger and the waste yarn for my thumb yarn. So I'm going to alternate casting on a stitch using both yarns, and then I'm going to do a yarn over. Cast on one, yarn over one. So each of these counts as a stitch. So I'm going to cast on 60 stitches, and again, I'm not counting my slip knot here. So the yarn over will be the even stitches. So far I've got 5 stitches. That's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and so on. So I'll do this until I get my 60 stitches on the needle, and then I will join in the round. Okay, I have actually 59 stitches on the needle right now. I'm going to cut my waste yarn, and I'm going to prepare myself for working in the round. I can do the yarn over now, but it's probably going to fall off. So because I have a small number of stitches relative to the length of my needles, I'm going to use magic loop, but you could use whatever needle is appropriate for the number of stitches that you have. If you want to use shorties, or if you are doing hundreds and hundreds of stitches and you're just going to join in the round, that all works. All right, so first thing I want to do is take the slip knot off the needle, just let it fall off the needle. And then I'm going to take my working yarn. I still need my yarn over, so I'm going to come around the back like this. So that's my yarn over. Now we're going to do some setup rows. We're going to do 4 setup rows altogether. So there's 2 rows that then get repeated. Row 1 is to work every other stitch by, the first stitch is going to be knit through the back loop. Then you're going to bring the yarn to the front, and you're going to slip that as if to purl. Bring it to the back so you can knit through the back. Bring it to the front so that you can slip it as if to purl. The ones that have the waste yarn right below it, that were actually worked with the long tail cast on, are the ones that we are knitting through the back. And the ones that are the yarn overs are the ones that are getting slipped as if to purl. Now, if you're confused by the fact that I have the yarn in my left hand and you knit with your yarn in your right hand, the point is what I'm doing with the working needle, and then I'm grabbing yarn to pull it through. So if I was holding the yarn in my right hand, I'd still have the needle through the same way, and the yarn would come around the needle the way I need to do it in order to knit a stitch and bring it through. And then in order to purl, I'd have to bring the yarn or slip as if to purl. I'm going to bring the yarn to the front, slip it, bring it back to the back in order to then knit through the back loop. So don't let the hand that I'm holding my working yarn in throw you. It's what is the yarn in front or the back, and how is the stitch being worked. So I've got a yarn over here, so I'm going to bring the yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, and so on. That last stitch, that was a yarn over, so the yarn was just slipped in front. Because I'm doing magic loop, I was just hang the working yarn over in order to prepare for a new round. So in this round, we're going to slip the stitches that had been worked the previous round, and we're going to work the stitches that had been slipped. For knit stitches, these knit stitches that are right side knit stitches, we want the yarn to be slipped behind. And you can slip as if to purl, or you can slip as if to knit through the back. That's going to do the same thing. It's going to maintain the stitch mount, which is what we want. What we don't want is to slip as if to knit like a regular knit through the front, because that would change the stitch mount. If you find it easier to keep the rhythm pretty much the same for both rounds, but just change whether you're slipping or purling, you can do that. So I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to slip as if to purl, bring the yarn to the front, and I'm actually going to purl this stitch now to bring the yarn to the back in order to slip it. Bring the yarn to the front to purl it. And here's what I mean by if you want to keep the rhythm of the twisted rib, you can just slip that through the back loop, purl it, slipped through the back, bring it forward. Whichever one just rhythmically makes the most sense to you, you can slip as if to purl or slip as if to knit through the back. It's all going to be the same. So now you're going to do 2 more rounds of this. So again, the first round you're going to be working the twisted knits and slipping the purl stitches, just like you did previously. So knit through the back, slip as if to purl with the yarn in front, twisted knit, slip, twisted knit, slip. All right, so now we're ready for our 4th setup round, and this is going to be the one where we're slipping our twisted knits with the yarn in the back so that it's not crossing in front of the knit stitches. And then we bring the yarn to the front in order to purl the other stitches. So slipping as if to purl or as if to knit through the back, purling, slipping, purling, slipping. Now you can just go into your actual twisted rib where you're working every stitch. So nothing is getting slipped from now on. You're going to work every single stitch. Which is probably the hardest thing to remember, is that you're not slipping stitches in that first round, just to regain your muscle memory for what twisted rib is like. Okay, if we are going to do flat knitting, things are a bit different with the setup rows. We're going to start out the same by creating a slip knot with our 2 yarns. And again, those do not count as a stitch. And then we cast on the number of stitches that we need. I'm going to cast on 15. If you're knitting flat, it's usually easier to cast on an odd number of stitches. So you're starting with a long tail cast on stitch and ending with a long tail cast on stitch, and then you have the yarn overs in between. I think it's probably possible to do it with an even number, just not very easy. I would suggest swatching it. So you're going to set yourself up for the long tail cast on. The waist yarn is your thumb yarn, and your working yarn is over your index finger. And you are going to alternate casting on a stitch with doing a yarn over. So that's 3 stitches on the needle, because again, this doesn't count. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and now I'm going to end with number 15 right here. And I can cut my waist yarn, and we're going to turn the work. So we are going to work all the stitches that were actually cast on. Anything that has a bump under it, we're going to work as a knit through the back loop. So this will be the right side of the work. Knit through the back, and then we bring the yarn to the front and we slip as if to purl. Knit through the back. Slip as if to purl. So we finish up the row, we have a knit through the back, and then we have that slip knot, which we can just let come off the needle. You can pull it out or just leave it, doesn't matter. So now we're going to be working on the wrong side of the work, and we have to slip the stitches that had been worked on the previous row and work the stitches that had been slipped. So we're on the wrong side of the fabric. So this was a knit two together, but now we need to slip it. So we keep the yarn to the front as we slip that twisted knit, and then we are going to knit our yarn overs, because this will be a purl stitch on the right side of the work. So we bring the yarn to the front, slip as if to purl, bring the yarn to the back, and knit that yarn over. And now we're going to repeat those two rows again. We're going to knit through the back and then bring the yarn to the front in order to slip it as if to purl, knit through the back, slip as if to purl, etc. Through the back. Now we're going to do our fourth setup row. Again, we're on the wrong side of the work, so we're slipping as if to purl, and then we're going to knit this stitch. Slip as if to purl, knit. At this point, we can switch to our twisted rib, which is knit through the back, purl, knit through the back, on the wrong side of the work, we have to purl through the back, and then we knit, purl through the back, knit, purl through the back. So twisted rib is always trickier when you're knitting it flat, much nicer to do in the round. So at any point after you have finished your setup rows or rounds, you can remove the waste yarn. And for a long tail cast on, you're going to need to snip it. So use sharp scissors and make sure you're not getting any of the regular working yarn. Snip it every couple of stitches, and then just pull it out. You don't have to use the long tail cast on in order to start this twisted tubular cast on. You can actually use any standard cast on that would produce an edge. What's nice about the long tail cast on is that because you're using these two strands, you can cast on a stitch and then do a yarn over with the working yarn and get all of the stitches on the needle in one step. But if you don't like the long tail cast on, or if you prefer to use another type of cast on, you can do that, but you need to do it in two steps. So for example, if I wanted to use a crochet cast on, and I wanted 15 stitches, I'm going to cast on half of that number, which is 7.5, and obviously I can't do that, so I'll round up 1 to 8. So I've got 8 stitches in waste yarn, and now I can join the yarn and double the number of stitches. So I'm going to knit that first one, do my yarn over, and these are actual knitting. This isn't through the back because you're just establishing stitches on the needle, but you're alternating a yarn over with every knit stitch in order to double the number of stitches. So this gets you to the same place that you would be at the end of the long tail cast on version. So the nice thing about using a crochet cast on is that you don't need to snip anything like you would with the long tail cast on or any other standard cast on like the cable cast on or knitting on. You can just undo this chain and it will just slide out. So it just pulls out. So that's an option. They're both completely valid options, whichever one you want to use. One other option for a twisted rib cast on is the alternating cast on. This cast on does not require setup rows the way a tubular cast on does. It creates a flatter edge and the stitch size looks more consistent from the edge into the stitch pattern. I will leave a link to that over here. And if you want a bind off method for the twisted rib pattern, you can find that over here. If you have any comments or questions about today's video or suggestions for videos you'd like to see in the future, you can leave those down in the comments below or join the discussion in my Ravelry group, Rox Rocks. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.